Unspoken Issues.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Unspoken Issues podcast. We are back, and we are going to be discussing Wonder Woman Plus tonight. And these were some titles that myself, I think I've seen one, but I learned from one Dean Compton that this was a series of titles that had come out, but it looks like they came out late 96. There were a bunch of Plus issues.
Yep.
So, Dean, real quick, I mean, any idea what was the thought behind these?
You know, I'm not entirely sure of every vestige of the thought process behind them, but it seems obvious that most of them were going to put a character with a hotter, more visible, higher branded character, Azrael plus the Question, Wonder Woman plus Jesse Quick. There was a few others I can't remember, but most of them seem to be to either elevate a superhero who was maybe seen on a lesser tier than their plus counterpart, or in the case of Superman plus the Legion of Superheroes, it was to remind you that continuity had changed. Part of the Legion was in the current time period now and kind of strengthen that bond, and also be like, hey, if you're reading Superman now, where we're sort of using some Legion guys as supporting characters, maybe you'll like the Legion book as well, and here's some of them together. So it could have also been I need to look more into this. I couldn't find the answer. It could have been a 5th week event.
Okay.
It could have been an ongoing thing. I could not find that information, but I reached out to a couple people and didn't hear anything back from them.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's definitely a vehicle to get people to look into another character paired with a character that's perceived to be more popular.
Yeah, my first impression when I was reading the book, I was like, oh, this is number one of a continuing title where it's going to be Wonder Woman plus somebody else, a team up.
Like Marvel team up, like Marvel 2-in-1.
Right. And then you, of course, told me, no, they had a whole series of Plus issues where it was other characters plus another one. So I have the Impact Plus. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I cannot remember who it is. I just know that I have the Impact issue.
You mean Impulse?
Oh, yeah. So, oh my goodness.
Cyberforce. You're thinking of Cyberforce. We haven't gotten 5 minutes into this motherfucker, and you're already drifting. Your thoughts are already of ballistic and velocity.
You on your toes. That's all I'm saying.
No, that's not it. That's not it.
It's all about Cyberforce.
That's not what it is. Jesse eats, sleeps, breathes, and dreams Cyberforce.
That's right, I do. That's right. Yes,
I didn't think I'd get that one in so fast. We haven't even introduced Emily yet, but here we go. But I couldn't. You lobbed that softball. I'm gonna knock her
I
right
know,
out.
dude. I know. Yeah, Impulse. I have the Impulse Plus issue, and I cannot remember who he teams up with in that.
Can't either. But Robin?
It feels like a really... I'm going to look it up here just real quick.
I'm looking it up right now, brother.
Let's see who wins.
It'll be you. Gross.
Yeah. So it's Robin plus Impulse. And so Robin had Impulse in his book. And yeah, it's Impulse plus Gross Out was the other one.
Yeah.
So who the hell's Gross Out?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm going to be honest.
I've never heard of that character.
They're from Scare Tactics, which was I don't know, I can't remember, I remember hearing about it vaguely, but it was kind of the Howling Commandos vein. Good thing these monsters are on our side!
The masked third tag.
Right.
Gross Out. Emily, welcome back to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here to discuss some more comics with us. By the way, she holds the title, the 2024 title for Unspoken Issues, and actually the Source Material Comics podcast, if I remember correctly, for having the most listens. That's right. The episode that you were on where we talked Sandman had the most listens last year. So 2023. I said 2024. 2023. So it's good to have you back. We'll put this one right here in the annals of history again.
I got to bump these numbers up for you guys.
That's right, damn it. That's right.
It's all about the ratings.
Yeah.
Undisputed champ right here.
Hold it over him. So, okay, you got in on this, and I don't know if it's just because Dean requested it or if you wanted to discuss this. Let me just ask Emmy, have you ever read any of these Plus issues before we had the chance to talk about them?
I have not. I think this was a fairly, not random in the bad sense selection, but just hey, this looks fun.
You use the word random, and that's kind of the way I felt too. I was like, man, this is an oddball. Why this one? Because it didn't seem like there was of all the issues in the middle of this Plus event, it was this one. So I guess Dean's the one that's got to answer that question. Why'd you pick it?
I don't have to answer shit.
Okay.
I ain't got to tell you goddamn thing.
Right,
I am going to assert my 90s Fifth Amendment rights.
It's an extreme version of the Fifth Amendment.
Right. It's the Fifth Amendment, but it's on a skateboard with a Mountain Dew. No, for real. I have a little extra time right now, and so we picked something that I was just looking for something that was like a nice one-shot we could get in and out of. And we really have never talked a whole lot about Wonder Woman.
True.
And so I was like, hey, let's talk some Wonder Woman. We'll get a lady on here to talk Wonder Woman. Plus Jesse Quick. I'm a big Jesse Quick mark.
This is why it's so important to have a woman in the podcast room.
Right, exactly. So
well, I think it makes sense you haven't talked about Wonder Woman as Super 10, because I think her popularity and visibility as a character hasn't necessarily waned over time. I think she's always been Wonder Woman, but I don't think of her as a 90s character.
Right.
She's not necessarily emblematic of that decade.
I mean, I would kind of agree, because I certainly wasn't reading Wonder Woman in the 90s. Now, there's a couple events that happened, I think, in the 2000s, but it's the 90s. I certainly wasn't picking up Wonder Woman and thinking there was anything big going on there.
Well, y'all are mistaken. The 90s were a nice decade for Wonder Woman. First off, you get the really treasured William Messner Loeb's run. I think a lot of people, which is referenced in this book, she works for Taco Wiz for a little bit. Everybody kind of seen that cover. Brian Bolland does covers for Wonder Woman Forever. They're terrific. We wind up with a really good Artemis replacing Wonder Woman story, which we plan to talk about later.
Right.
And then also the John Byrne run of Wonder Woman, where he does a lot of things. Some of them people like, some of them they don't, but he gets her back to a superheroes basic fighting Doomsday, fighting Darkseid. Later she gets replaced by her mom, who goes back in time and joins the Justice Society to fill some continuity holes there. And then he tells stories of her back in World War II. It's a mixed bag, but it certainly is something that people talk about as John Byrne's run on Wonder Woman. So while she's not seen as the most extreme characters, she was prominent in the 90s. I think the real problem with Wonder Woman, and this is I don't think it's that hot of a take, but it can be seen as controversial, is there's like 4 stories. Wonder Woman obviously has a long history, but there are periods where it's not that rich of a history. And in some ways, we've gone back to celebrate the zany fucking sci-fi 50s Batman stuff. And we've gone back to celebrate a lot of the Mort Weisinger edited imaginary tale Superman stuff. But there's no real equivalent for 50s Wonder Woman. It's like you read the really weird BDSM early Wonder Woman stuff, and then you get to the I'm no longer Wonder Woman, I do fucking karate now stuff. And then she comes back to the JLA, and that's approximately 75, 76. And then there's not really much that happens with her until she dies in the Earth 2. Wonder Woman dies in the Crisis, and then George Perez reboots it, gets it really back to a great mythological feel. Then there's the Loeb stuff, the Byrne stuff. And I honestly think since the turn of the century, DC's done a pretty good job of keeping Wonder Woman not just prominent, but having good creators go in and out and try and tell really good Wonder Woman stories. But there's this 50-year period where there's 40 issues you got to read. And again, I don't want to knock Wonder Woman. I think Wonder Woman's a fantastic character with a good background, good history, good characterization, but she was just seen as an also-ran for a while. Not by necessarily her fans, but by the DC Comics.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a knock on the character. It's a testament to the character that she could have that high level of visibility without having necessarily a lot of super iconic and well-known stories and a lot of variety of stories that got told with her.
Well, there's another piece to that. And that is that the guy who created Wonder Woman, what's his name, William Marston Moulton or something, he made a deal. He was a shrink, right, when he created Wonder Woman.
Yep.
And he made a deal. He was smarter than most of the 18, 21-year-old kids that DC was taking advantage of, and Timely at the time, Fox, whoever. And he was like, if you ever stop publishing Wonder Woman for a certain amount of time, Wonder Woman's mine. And to this day, that exists. And if DC stops, from what I understand, if DC stops publishing Wonder Woman, its ownership and trademark and copyright will revert to his family. Plus, they get a percentage, which is like unheard of things to
back then.
Right. But like he was a shrink. He had already published a couple books, so I think it's a combination of the two. I think you're right, Emily. Wonder Woman has that great look, the lasso. Iconic, had really embedded herself into the psyche of Americana. But at the same time, even if her sales weren't that great, and sometimes they weren't, you would tolerate the low sales because you didn't want to lose the IP. Does that make sense, Emily?
Absolutely. They're like, this week, Wonder Woman goes to the mall.
Right.
Wonder Woman wears pants now.
I remember when she wore the pants, that was for whatever reason a big deal in like 2007 or 8 or something.
Let's see those stems, guys.
It's like when Chris Jericho went from long pants to trunks and Jim Ross was like, why have you been hiding those lines from us? Except the opposite. It's like, whoa, you look good in pants. Why don't you keep yourself warm all this time, Diana Prince? But yeah, I think the 90s are better to Wonder Woman than it seems off the top of that at first glance.
Well, we've talked a lot about Wonder Woman. Her name is on this book, but my goodness, I think we've come to a conclusion there prior to this recording that this is not Wonder Woman's book.
Yeah, it should really be called Jesse Quick plus Wonder Woman.
Right, exactly. This is a story that primarily features Jesse Quick. And Dean, I'll leave it up to you here to kind of give us an idea of who Jesse Quick is.
Y'all, I'm going to tell you who Jesse Quick is. Because that's the kind of guy I am.
He's a good guy. Sit under
the learning tree.
Come sit under the learning tree for a minute. Jesse Quick's dad is Johnny Quick, who is a Golden Age speedster, who Johnny Chambers is his real name. He was a newsman, and he was taught a mantra, which is a mathematical equation that would enable him to have super speed. He taught the same thing to his daughter. Her first appearance is in Justice Society of America, Volume 2, Number 1. The Mike Parabeck, Lynn Straczewski, very heralded run that I think made me and a lot of people fall in love with the Justice Society of America. That's her first appearance. And she's a legacy character. And it seems funny, if you're going to fucking talk about DC Comics and you talk about speedsters, you're going to wind up talking about legacy characters. The Flash is all about legacy, and there's no reason why Johnny Quick, his fellow hot stepper, if you will, would have his own legacy. And this is his. And Jesse Quick also has inherited the powers of her mom, Liberty Belle, if you rang the Liberty Belle, she would get super strength, and later on, under Roy Thomas's All-Star Squadron, that's when her and Johnny Quick become a couple. She becomes the leader of the All-Star Squadron. She's a very tough, no-nonsense, go-get-em gal. One of those Rosie the Riveter, yes, we can. Type ladies from the 40s who developed her own following, and she's very, very well liked. And later, Jesse Quick will adopt more of in the Jeff Johns JSA, she'll become more of like a Liberty Belle looking character than Johnny Quick looking character. I think she may go by, I can't remember if she changes her name or not, but I want to say she does, but she has the powers of both her mom or dad, and that's what she does as Jesse Quick. She's got slightly elevated superhuman strength, and she's super fast as long as she knows the quadratic equation. But it turns out, as we're learning about this time, none of the super speedsters get their speed that way, unless you're a Superman, Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel. If you're just a speedster, you get it from the Speed Force, and this is just her trick to access the Speed Force.
Okay.
And her dad's.
Yeah, when we start this book out, one of the big things that they talk about, and one of the driving forces behind this story as well, is Jesse's dad has passed away. Now, I don't know how soon that has been, but it seems like it's definitely left a mark on her, because she remembers at her father's funeral, the way her mom actually was taking the death and how it affected her. So any idea off the top of your head how recent that is in the books as far as Johnny Quick dying?
This came out in 97.
Yeah.
Within 2 years of real time.
Okay. All right. So it was in the 90s as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for sure. He dies. The big adventure they're on in the book happens in the Flash. Savitar is a Flash villain who they're saying is trying to get in the Speed Force and take it over. And all the speedsters get together to stop him and everything. I've read it and I don't remember as much about it as I should. But yeah, that's all fairly recent. And that's one of the things you can't get onto them too much for making this a Jesse Quick plus Wonder Woman book. Wonder Woman has several spots, including her own book and Justice League titles to work out shit happening to her. Jesse Quick does not have her own book. She is a supporting character in two different realms at this point. The JSA, they don't have a book at this point, but she's still attached to them, and she's also a Flash supporting character.
Mm-hmm.
You're using actual knowledge of comic books publishing to figure out how long ago it was. My dumbass is flipping through the comics for context clues like, oh, at the funeral, there's leaves falling off the tree, but 3 pages later, the trees are all bare.
Well, I'm talking in real time. I don't know exactly when this took place. You could be just a few months later.
All right.
She's also sitting outside in a robe and isn't cold, so...
Well, she has super speed.
Is it like she vibrates and...
Yeah. How cold could you ever really get?
So, wow. Let's talk about the creative team here real quick. I'll just throw this out here.
Let's do it.
Let's do that. Our scripter, a name a lot of people are going to recognize, Christopher Priest, which...
Alias James Owsley.
Yes, alias James Owsley. So I learned, I don't know if you guys have heard this story. Our good friend Evan Bevins told me that apparently he had lost a bet, and that's why he had to change his name.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, okay. All right. Interesting.
I can't say whether it's true or not.
Penciled by Mike Collins, inked by Tom Palmer. It looks like Gaspar is the letterer and Ian Laughlin colorist. So that is our creative team for the book.
I love Mike Collins. I'm a big Mike Collins fan, penciling and writing. And Tom Palmer is arguably the greatest inker of all time. I mean, think about it. The guy was inker on just about every Tomb of Dracula. He was on Avengers for literally 30 years. I mean, if he's not the best inker of all time, in and of himself, because normally we think of inkers as pair teams, but he worked with so many different guys and did so much great stuff. If he's not the best inker of all time, I think it's Klaus Janson. Otherwise, I don't think of people's inks, but those are two guys I can always tell. It's weird, and Wally Wood, but Wally Wood was just, he's on another level. But it's funny, I can always tell when Tom Palmer inks something, but never in a bad way. It's never like, oh, Tom Palmer took this over. It's like, oh, wow, this is really done up nicely. Tom Palmer must have done this.
Gotta been, yeah. Well,
and like I said, I love Mike Collins, really cool guy. I talked to him a couple times on Facebook, did the Peter Cannon Thunderbolt. Really, for DC, great writer as well as penciler. Underrated. We got to talk more about good old MC, Mike Collins.
MC Mike. Well, if you guys are ready, I'm going to go ahead and hop into the synopsis here of the book. We'll get that in there. And bear with me. This is a pretty big book. These books were, they were a little bit larger than a normal comic story, weren't they?
Yeah, they're definitely, how many pages?
It's like 39 pages.
Yeah, so.
Okay. I think usually you're seeing 28 or something like that.
Close to double. Close. I think the pages around this time are like 24, so this is 24. Like 1.5.
Okay. In the heart of Central City, where the sun's rays pierced through the tall skyline, Jessie Chambers, known to the world as the speedy heroine Jesse Quick, found herself at a crossroads of doubt and determination. The somber memory of her mother, Elizabeth Libby Lawrence Chambers, also known as the famed Liberty Belle, haunted her thoughts. Jessie couldn't shake the image of her mother's regretful expression at her father's funeral. Jonathan Chambers, alias Johnny Quick, had been the embodiment of speed and heroism, but tragedy always seemed to shadow a hero's legacy, making her doubt being a hero was worth it. Amidst the reflections, fate delivered a test of Jessie's resolve. Confronted by a 12-year-old thief clutching an even younger child as hostage, Jessie's heart raced with apprehension. She feared her own super speed might betray her again, failing to save the innocent child. Now, just to stop real quick, clearly at this point in time, she's having some kind of an issue with her powers.
I think everybody was.
Okay.
because of weirdness of the Speed Force, but they do give you a footnote that this happened in their showcase title at the time, which I haven't read, so I don't know exactly. But I do know that there was lots of Speed Force shenanigans around this time.
Got it.
So I assume it has something to do with that. But if I'm wrong, someone feel free to correct me, and I will blame Emily.
Way to go,
I'm just
Emily.
gonna say that you're wrong. Just be contrary.
That's good. That's exactly what I'd do to my wife.
That's what I'm here for. Contradict him at every turn.
Failing to, so she's worried that her own super speed will betray her again, and she may fail to save the innocent child. But as danger loomed, Jessie invoked the familiar formula that granted her superhuman velocity, dashing in to rescue the child and shield the thief from a barrage of bullets as well. Returning the child safely to their parents, Jessie grappled with conflicting emotions. Saving lives was her calling, yet the risks gnawed at her. Questions lingered like shadows. How had such a young life strayed into the darkness of crime? The day's events left a lingering ache in Jessie's heart, pushing her to contemplate the perils of continuing in the hero's path. And when her mother, Libby, appeared, it was not with solace, but reprimand for Jessie abandoning a crucial business meeting to heed the call of heroism. Stung by the confrontation, Jessie stormed away, leaving unresolved tension hanging in the air. But destiny weaves unexpected turns. While Libby attempted to rearrange her disrupted schedule, masked assailants, wielding swords, violently intruded. Returning home, Jessie stumbled upon a scene of chaos, finding her mother lying wounded and barely conscious. Amidst fading strength, Libby revealed the attacker sought Hermes' ancient scroll, a relic Jessie had recently, and I'm going to put this in quotes, obtained. Unable to disclose its location, Libby bore the brunt of their fury. Driven by a quest for answers, Jessie felt compelled to decipher the scroll's ancient text. With it inscribed in Greek, she saw expertise of Helena Sandsmark for translation. Yet fate had other plans as Jessie stumbled upon Diana Prince, known to the world as Wonder Woman, who confirmed the scroll's authenticity, marked by the seal of Hermes. In the midst of this revelation, Savitar's enforcers stormed the office, triggering a cascade of events. Jessie began to give chase, but was astonished to find she was joined by the one and only Wonder Woman. As clashes erupted, Jessie grew convinced of the enforcers' intention to resurrect Savitar from the depths of the Speed Force. However, Jessie's confrontation took an unexpected turn. Intent on using force to extract information, Wonder Woman intervened, employing her lasso of truth to unravel the assailants' true motives. They aimed to return the scroll to the Circle of Light. But before Jessie could grasp more, she was rendered unconscious, only to waken.
Y'all say that is like the Lion King.
Yeah.
Circle of Light.
Yeah, every time they said it, I know that's not what they say in Lion King, but I couldn't help it.
And it moves real fast.
Dude, that's what gets us the ratings.
It is. But before Jessie could grasp more, she was rendered unconscious, only to awaken and witness Wonder Woman in pursuit of one of the assailants, identified as, now this girl I think goes by a few names, but they're calling her Christina in this, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Christina Alexandrova, who was a speed-enhanced Soviet experiment, who also was once known as Lady Flash. Am I right there?
That sounds correct.
Okay. I mean, it's clear that she's a speedster, and I looked it up there, or they actually mentioned it in the book. She was an experiment by the Soviets. Looking for leads.
I think she calls herself Lady Flash at one point, they say. I don't know if anyone else does.
Okay. She took that title on herself.
She's crazy.
She is, too. She is quite. So looking for leads, Diana took them on a path to Boston, seeking counsel from an expert who revealed, "Sir, the Circle of Light may lie in the..." I can't do it, so I probably just tanked our ratings right there, but may lie in the Dominican Republic. Amidst their journey, Jessie marveled at Diana's composed demeanor and found solace in sharing with the struggles they both bore with their mothers. As they edged closer to their destination in the Dominican Republic, Jessie disclosed a harrowing past, how Christina had attempted to murder her, leading to her father's tragic sacrifice into the Speed Force, presumed lost forever. At La Luz Redondo, which I think is the destination here where the Circle of Light exists, their mission reached its zenith. Intent on vengeance, Jessie sought to eliminate Christina and abandon her heroic mantle for good. That's huge. There's a cosmic race through different realms. I don't know if they're going towards the Speed Force, they're going across the cosmos. I don't know. It's crazy. So it ensues as Christina opens a portal to break the Speed Force barrier, and Jesse is in relentless pursuit with a sword and bad intent. In the crescendo of their chase, amidst mounting velocity toward the barrier, Jesse found a momentary distraction to launch her assault. Her fury was palpable, echoing her intent to end Christina. Yet, in that crucial moment, Wonder Woman's lasso arrested Jesse's resolve, urging her to reconsider her actions. It was a fleeting respite that allowed Christina to flee, leaving Jesse seething with frustration. However, reality crashed upon her like a tidal wave, revealing a truth Jesse had long concealed from herself. Memories flooded in, her simmering resentment towards Wally West, her father's demise during the confrontation with Christina, and the subsequent absence of support from Wally in her time of need. Diana's lasso had stripped away her self-deception, exposing the raw wounds of her past. Returning to the present, shaken and emotionally wrought, Jessie made her way home. It was there at her mother's bedside in the hospital that she realized the urgent need to confront their shared grief over Jonathan's death. Jessie resolved to mend fractured bonds, introduced Diana to her mother, setting the wheels in motion for healing and reconciliation. That was a long synopsis, but I wanted to make sure I touched on just about every event that happened in the book because they're all very important. I'm going to go ahead. I'll go ahead and start things. I'd like to talk about Jessie quick. We've already talked a lot about where she came from, but this story is something else, especially for this one random thing that you grabbed. Christopher Priest told a tale here with her.
Yeah, I mean, I think the story's a little unwieldy. There's a lot. They try and get a lot in here, but I understand they're not going to get another chance to do it. But yeah, he definitely connects a lot of threads.
I mean, I'm looking at it just from the emotional journey that she goes through in this story.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a roller coaster.
I guess I'll start with the confrontation with the young thief, which initially I was like, she's put in a kind of a precarious situation where she has to try and rescue this young kid from this younger kid from this other young kid who's got this kid at gunpoint. She sees that event. She rescues the kid, but that event sticks with her. She kind of sees herself this is my take. You guys feel free to chime in, but she kind of saw herself in the kid that was taking the other kid hostage because she saw that person was kind of throwing their life away, and she's been planning. I could tell it's not like she just leaped to this conclusion, like, I want to get revenge on Christina. This is something that's been hanging around over her like a cloud, and it's been bothering her that she's going to get revenge, and she's going to kill this girl, hero or not. She's going to kill this person. And so she saw this other young kid kind of throwing his life away into a life of crime, just this one act that he did. She's about to do the same thing.
I think there's definitely an element of that. I think part of the reason why it's also sticking with her is, I think she said something about how her dad never had to put up with this kind of thing, like a 12-year-old holding a 4-year-old at gunpoint. And I don't know if, because this is sort of self-contained to me as somebody who hasn't read any of the comics around it, it's okay, you have all these sort of old school heroes. Now she's a hero for a new age, and this is something she's having to grapple with. This changing of the guard that her parents never would have had to, and it's sort of recontextualizing what her mother said to her about this shit isn't worth it.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got out of it too, was that she's like, oh, this is a new age and things have changed, and maybe my mom's right. But also, this is one of the first times and one of the times in the book where I'm like, this doesn't go anywhere. You think it's going to be this theme that she's this new hero and she's deal with these new problems, but it turns out that her big problem is a supervillain trying to get revenge. And I guess the oldest problem is the oldest it comes, right? So this is, I just thought that this would be based on how heavy it came across the first few pages. We would see more of this. I'm not necessarily complaining that we didn't, but that we would see more of this crime has changed. Now babies are killing babies. Type of commentary.
Right. To me, it seemed like it was a reflection. She saw a reflection of herself in what was going on. And there's that mention of how her dad never had to deal with any of that stuff. And
she doesn't know, though.
Well,
crazy ass shit happened in the 40s. Also, her dad fought, if he was with the Justice Society, he fought Valhalla over and over again for 40 years. So what do you know about that?
Okay. That's true.
Maybe when he was CEO, he had to run out of a big important meeting to hold up an old-timey gangster holding up a bank.
All right.
With a Tommy gun, obviously a Tommy gun.
Yeah, it's got a big drum on the bottom.
Yeah, fedora.
Yeah.
You know what's going on here.
My next note was Jesse's relationship with her mom. And what I took from, there's a few things that I took from that in the story. The moment that she witnesses her mom doubting what being a hero really accomplishes, it's kind of a big deal when you see a parent in a moment of weakness as a kid. It's really hard to see. Being a parent myself, that's clearly one of the things you want to try to do is you're going to feel sad or you're going to feel upset. And you try to shield that from your kids. Jessie doesn't get that. She has to experience watching her mom lose the thought of what being a hero is. And that's huge. And when you start to realize that your parents aren't invincible and you start to realize that they're human, it hurts. So again, it's another thing where I'm seeing Jessie's going through this emotional thing, watching all this stuff happen all around her. That stood out to me.
At first, the first time I read through this, it's at the very beginning when they're at the father's funeral in this flashback, and her mother says the thing that she's like, what do you mean that being a superhero isn't this great thing? And the first time I was like, well, of course she's saying that. She's burying this guy. So of course she's jaded in this moment. But then the second time through and you think about sort of the layers of complexity of the emotion she's experiencing, I think it's not just that she's sort of incredulous with her, how can superheroes not be worth it? Because that's what she has decided to do. But also it's almost like a retroactive betrayal she feels as herself as a child. This is something I was around my whole childhood and had this very elevated up on a pedestal image of all these heroes. But now you're telling me it's not worth it. So it's the child in her reacting to it too.
Well, you also mentioned that it's hard for you to, as a parent. And also, let me just say that it took me 20 seconds to realize you weren't talking about yourself in third person.
Same. Thank you.
You were as a parent, you don't want to show weakness. Jesse has to, and I was like, what is he about to say about it? He's going full rock on this. This is going to be worth something, right? But then I figured out you were talking about Jesse Quick. But just like your parents, like as a parent, and parents like to show weakness, on the other side, kids at one point start to learn that their parents are sometimes full of shit.
Oh, yeah.
Libby doesn't mean any of this shit at the funeral. She really doesn't. She is upset. I think there is more to it. She is definitely thinking about her relationship with superheroism and what that used to mean and what it means now and what it means to have this loss of her husband. Could be her ex-husband. They may have gotten divorced in this continuity. I know they did in the Golden Age. But I think more than anything, though, she is just saying things to make herself feel better at a funeral. And so Jesse, Quick Not Starcher, is having to deal with simultaneously being the attack on her childhood that Emily mentioned, but also being like, you are just lashing out, Mom, which is probably something that her mom hadn't really done a whole lot prior. So it's kind of a very interesting head-on collision. It's like a cold front meeting a warm front, and now Jesse has a storm to deal with.
The relationship between her and her mother, even though a lot of the plot elements of the comic are about her and her father and dealing with her father's death and legacy and all those things, the emotional core of the present day events of this story are very much about her and her mother.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the core of the book. And it's always interesting to see the mother-daughter relationship written by men and if they get that right and they get how weird they could be. And I think it gets nailed in this book. I think it's one of the things that, for a story that could be a little disjointed or there's a lot of things coming together, that all anchors a lot of it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting, too, that her father dies and she doesn't necessarily feel compelled to go out and murder someone, but it's, oh, well, now you beat up my mom, too. Well, I'm going to come kill you.
I didn't know. I thought and I might have missed this in the book, but I thought she already had her mind made up. She saw Christina again. She was going to kill her.
More than anything, she was already grappling with her mom was putting a bunch of pressure on her not being a hero. Her dad's dead. So now this person comes out of here and fucks with her mom. Well, I don't want to be a hero anymore. And at this point in the DC universe, especially, one of the quickest ways not to be a hero anymore would be to decapitate a villain at high fucking hyper speed with a katana. gonna, because she would have no choice but to not be. The choice to be taken away from her.
Right.
And that's what she's agonizing over on some level here, is every choice she has. Is she going to be a hero or a CEO? What's up with her mom? What's up with her dad? Does she want to go forward? All these things. Then a lot of choices would be taken from her. Mm-hmm. And she ultimately, but she would feel like she had control while simultaneously not having to do anything after that. And that can be a very exciting possibility for people in time.
Did Libby hang up the stop being a hero after Johnny's death and then became this corporate lady, or is she still doing Libby?
I think she had done it before he died, actually.
Okay.
I don't know if she was his corporate lady. I don't know. Yeah, I think that she had quit prior.
Okay.
They don't say, at least in this book, but it's sort of implied.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got.
That was just my assumption that she had kind of hung it up before then.
Yeah, Johnny left the company to Jesse. It would appear that assistant is the wrong word, because it's way more than that, but she does appear to be taking on a lot of those roles at the same time. So, Emily, you work in a more like, is there a term for somebody like that? Not even executive assistant, but somebody beyond that, like day handler.
We see Liberty Belle, Libby, talk to her assistant at some point. So maybe that's where that she's talking on the phone to somebody and being like, you got to learn to rack and stack these appointments if you want to be an executive assistant.
Right.
So she's talking to some assistant. My assumption, based on watching every season of Succession multiple times, is that the father leaves the company to her, but the mother is probably on the board. She probably has voting shares in the company or something. I understand for narrative purposes why it's Jesse, but if you're the mom, that's kind of a slap in the face.
Well, I think they had
Jesse's
divorced.
not that old. The mom's probably not that old. So
yeah, but I think Johnny and Libby had divorced. I can't.
Oh, well, that's a horse of a different color.
But they definitely divorced in the golden age. I don't remember in main continuity. But if they had, then this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If they hadn't, it's sort of insulting.
That might also then go along with my theory that she's a voting member on the board, and that's why she's so involved, because that's the kind of thing this lady would demand in the divorce. Again,
she's a ball buster. All right,
yep.
Speaking of mother, right? So many great songs about mother. What song did you think of when you were reading this about mothers? I'll go first if you need me to. If somebody else has an idea.
Oh, I do not have an idea off the top of my head, but I mean, you would have to go with, is it Danzig?
I was thinking the same thing, bro. When I read this, it was like, mother. Or Tracy Bonham's mother.
Don't know that one, I don't think.
She screams, everything's fine.
Mother, can you hear me?
From like 1995 or some shit.
Maybe
She's
I have heard that.
I'm losing my mind. Everything's fine. So
maybe we're showing our age. Is Jesse younger than
No, Jesse's like a year older.
Okay, well, I don't know.
Jesse is the world's #1 Cyberforce fan. He is.
That's right.
He has an impact tattoo on his back. It's his shoulder, upper left. I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to let the fence
It's Rip Claw's claw coming over. It's what it is.
Right.
I did not think about any songs about mothers. I was too busy going, it's the circle.
Yeah, that's fair. This is a very musical issue of Wonder Woman plus Jesse Quick.
The last thing
it was the Danzig one primarily for me. Just yeah. For whatever reason, I mean, it just seemed to fit.
Perfect. That's perfect.
What do you think, Emily? Does it fit? Mother.
We're still talking about.
And if you want to see hell with me,
that is definitely a song that would play when this woman walks into the room.
Yeah, you know what? Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
That could be her entrance music, which is my way of also now segueing into saying that I couldn't not picture the Glow character Liberty Belle every single time.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow, nice.
Can I also mention that when Jessie shows up for her first day at work, she's dressed like Lady Ozymandias from Watchmen. She has this weird tunic dress on. She looks a lot like Homeboy. Or she's at least serving up that image.
She's closet cosplaying Ozymandias.
Yeah.
Could very well be.
Well, he's the smartest man in the world. You're going to copy somebody, I guess it's him.
my last couple notes here for Jesse Quick. This whole thing where I think she's planning on getting revenge. Wonder Woman shows up and is right beside her. She is the embodiment of what a woman hero is. And I find it...
I mean, just a hero, to be honest, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, absolutely. You're right.
She is the pinnacle of the ladies as well. If you're gonna name woman superheroes, she's gonna probably be number one.
Right. And who else would Jesse Quick look up to as, okay, I got my mom who's a hero, I got my dad who's a hero, but Wonder Woman, I'm certain, holds a top 3 spot as far as heroes go in her mind. And Wonder Woman is right there with her, trying to track down these servants of Savitar, but that does not change her mind at all. She's still planning on killing this other person and giving up the hero life. She's still planning on killing Christina. And again, the reason
if there's any JLA member who would understand that, it's Wonder Woman, who will kill on occasion.
Snap a dude's neck, if I remember correctly.
Right,
later
Maxwell
on down
Lords, yeah. But also, Wonder Woman's a soldier. Look at her. She has a sword. Sometimes she has an axe and a sword and a shield. She's Amazonian. They fight. That's part of war. She's also an ambassador and a princess. That's part of being, in some ways, she is either the commander-in-chief or the second, or the command, whatever the second in command of the joint chief of staff, or what the fuck it ever would be. So war is a part of her life, and killing is a part of. So I don't think Wonder Woman wanted her to kill. Obviously, she didn't. But if there was anyone you were going to pull this in front of, a lot better than, say, Batman or Superman or Martian Manhunter or whatever.
A lot fewer sanctimonious speeches.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think we definitely have to talk about the pinnacle of the moment of this book where she's about to kill Christina and the lasso comes in and grabs her and brings her back out of the Speed Force and also has her realize some things about herself. But I don't want to...
Man, what a handy thing.
What, the lasso of truth?
Yeah, just give me that and I would be straightened out in no time.
I know.
Like you're just like, oh, well, that's it. I can't hide from myself.
Yeah, that was probably, as far as what landed this book, there was a lot of emotional stuff going on, but then when that moment happened, that's where I was, man, this is a really good random issue I was not expecting. I was not expecting to feel and understand this much about Jesse Quick going into this book.
It's definitely a book that will make you laugh and cry. It's got a lot going on here.
Yeah. So the lasso comes in, pulls Jesse out from making probably the biggest mistake of her life. And then as she comes out of there, she's so mad, she's so upset, and then everything just peels away and she realizes what's going on in her head. She starts thinking about how her dad had abandoned her. I think she's blaming her dad for dying, that's a thing.
Well, the thing is, he made a choice.
Right.
And he made that choice at that instant because the Speed Force is heaven for speedsters. To actually become a part of it, it's a metaphysical, that's the metaphysical apotheosis of everything they exist for. Barry Allen is the lightning bolt that strikes himself. Mm-hmm. So he fell in love with it, and when he saw that beauty, he couldn't stop. And that hit home for me. My dad killed himself. He made a choice. I think that Johnny's was a little less dire and dark than that, but it's still weird to have to deal with the fact that your dad made a choice even if it was a great choice, the same choice you'd make.
Yeah.
You have to deal with the fact that your dad made a choice to do something that never talk to you again.
Yeah. That moment that she talks about where her dad rushed in to try and save her too.
He does save her.
Yeah. So he rushes in.
That's why he gets to the Speed Force, because he goes too fast.
He goes so fast. But the thing is that Jesse's just trying to, she can't reconcile that in her head. She blames him for doing that. She feels he left her alone on purpose. There was some other type of solution. And I felt bad for Jesse because you think that she would understand, look, he was trying to save you. That happened because he was trying to save you. But regardless, she still blamed him. And I guess that's something that grief does.
Blame's a tough word. I think she didn't know until she came so close to the Speed Force just how beautiful it was and how much she would want to be a part of it. And like she said, she has to come to terms with the fact that at the end of this, it's less that her dad blamed her and then more that she can come to terms with it because she's like, I think I would have made the same call if Wonder Woman hadn't been there with the lasso.
Okay.
It's hard to say no to heaven.
That's the thing. That's the other thing about this. She doesn't care about going back to the real world. She's just ready to go and essentially be dead. She would be dead to everybody else in the real world. And she then sees
as dead as you get in the DC universe.
Right. But when she's pulled back, she's able to kind of realize, well, yeah, that's what my dad went through. One of the more poignant moments of this book, I'm telling you right there, where she realizes that and she goes through the rest of this. But I'm going to pull back here. Emily, you got some thoughts on what happens with Wonder Woman and Jesse Quick here at the end of the book or throughout the book?
I thought it was interesting that at the end, we were talking about this is a Jesse Quick book, sort of plus Wonder Woman, rather than the other way around like the title is. But it's interesting to me that somebody who's really trying to decide if she's going to even keep being a hero or not and grappling with all these things, ultimately what saves her and sort of renews her faith in doing this is getting saved by a superhero.
Yes.
Because Wonder Woman does save her. So even though Jessie is sort of the star of the book, ultimately she is someone who just gets saved like any other number of people might get saved in a comic book. So I think there's a nice sort of cyclical thing in there. Maybe bring some of that childlike wonder back to it for her. She gets saved by her hero. She gets her own picture of you in my locker kind of hero. The first time through, I won't say I didn't like the character, but she does spend a lot of time. She talks about how Wonder Woman's almost like creepy because she's smiling all the time and she's like, oh, my mom's here again. Even if it's all valid, she does spend a lot of the book just kind of being like, it's Jesse Quick's like no good, very bad day.
Yes.
But the strength of the ending is very powerful. And the second time through, I found her a lot more sympathetic all the way through after I had read the ending. And I find her very relatable in parts too. At one point, one of the best parts, even the first read through for me with her as a character, is when her mom shows up to just kind of unload on her and she just escapes out the window rather than deal with her.
Right. She leaves.
Yeah, why would you stay there? Are you okay? You look constipated, dear. I am not listening to this bullshit.
See you later.
Her mom is there to give her some snack wells and take away her Rocky Road and butter pecan. Like she's there to put her on a diet, tell her skin's gonna break out. She's like, I'm not doing this.
Ultimately, this book is a lot about healing. Jesse Quick, to me, is a damaged character at the beginning of this. There's so much about healing that happens here. You mentioned how she gets saved by Wonder Woman, and it's that turning point where she's like, I can heal, and the next thing that needs to heal is my relationship with my mom. She brings Diana in to kind of help that, which, again, another strength of this book, in my opinion, is this whole message of healing and watching it from Jesse's point of view go through. I'm going to get revenge. I don't care about being a hero anymore. I just want somebody to pay. And then by the end of this, she realizes that there's another way to go about it. There's a way to action there. It doesn't have to be somebody has to pay the ultimate price for this. You can move past it and work on yourself and your relationship with others. But Emily, I interrupted you. Did you have anything else to say?
No, I just agree. I think it wraps up nicely for something that did have a lot going on. And I could see how it would be something they could have built off of, even if it is sort of nicely self-contained on itself. I had some logistic questions about the Speed Force reading this as somebody who's not super well versed in it.
Well, then.
So you said, the dad sort of dissipates into this heaven of the Speed Force, but then you also have people who are still running around in it.
What do you mean running around in it?
Well, the lady Christina, is it, that she's going to kill the Speed Force? She's going to find, was it Savitar?
Yeah.
In the Speed Force. Is he just running around like?
No, you're not running around. You're part of the energy of the Speed Force, so you can get into the Speed Force and find someone's life force and extract it. When speedsters die, they become part of the Speed Force, but you can still find their individual life essence and extract it if you want.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's really, really hard to do. And also, most of them don't want to leave. I have not read this particular Flash story. I'm way behind on the Mark Waid 90s Flash. I could never pick it up on the reg. Well, I read Terminal Velocity, but I don't think that's not this story. I don't think anyway. Or if it was, I've forgotten it. But that's the way I understand the Speed Force. And there may be a little more to it, but it's one of those things where you get all Jesus up. It's like the Holy Spirit. They're all the Speed Force, but they're all also not the Speed Force. So speedsters on Earth are tapping into the Speed Force, which is made up of speedsters who are the Speed Force. But the Speed Force is also a metaphysical thing in and of itself that they tap into and become.
So are we to read some bitterness in the moment where she's recounting how the Flash managed to come back from it because he had this love from a woman that's so strong? She's like, well, I guess my dad didn't love me enough to find his way back. Is that supposed to be implied? Okay.
That is, and she has to come with the terms that it's not that her dad didn't love her enough. Her dad, Johnny Quick, could totally find his way back, but he's in heaven and he's happy now. That's why he had to break the barrier. When Flash got trapped in the Speed Force of memory serves, he didn't really want to do it. He loved her so much, he went to the Speed Force for her, and she had to see that.
And he didn't have any jerk friends like Buffy did to make him come back from
Right. No, he just has Wally West who's manipulating her and making sure that Impulse becomes Flash. What a chode move.
Yeah, wow. That was rough.
Not cool, man. Not cool.
No. All right, Dean.
Especially because Jessie Quick would be a fine Flash. There's no reason that she couldn't be Flash. She's super fast. She's really smart. She takes care of people. She also has a bit of super strength because she gets that from her mom. So what's the problem here, Flash? That kid's 13. He's not going to be Flash for like 12 more years. If you ain't going to be the Flash right now, why ain't it going to be Jessie Quick?
Right, dude. Right.
I enjoyed the book. I think that they throw a lot at you, and I think that there are times when I wasn't sure it was going to come together. I think it comes together all right. It's a very, very strong ending. I like Wonder Woman as the heavy. Wonder Woman just shows up and he's beating the shit out of people. I like when Jessie Quick doesn't recognize her. You're like, this is obviously Wonder Woman. Like, look at this. Overall, it's definitely more of an emotional thinker than you would believe in a one-shot that's designed to get you interested in the character. But I tell you what, you get pretty interested in Jessie Quick. Like they do
pretty quick.
That's right.
No. Only Jessie gets to make those jokes because Jessie Quick. See?
That's right.
I think that the ninjas looked cool. It was weird how, like, at one point, the Wonder Woman, she's like, now that even though they don't have their super speed, they're still just as dangerous. No. I mean, they're still really dangerous because they're ninjas. But without their super speed, they're less dangerous. I would rather, listen, I don't want to fight a ninja at all.
No.
Right? But if I was going to fight one, I would much less want to fight one with super speed.
Absolutely.
The ninja I want to fight least of all is the guy from Madison Square Garden, the Carnage concert, who had the knife because he had to be a ninja to get that in there. That's
he had to.
Weapon. That's a big knife. It's like he stuck a katana in there because he is a fucking ninja. Right?
I still have not changed my profile pic to that yet. And I don't know why I haven't. I need to be that guy.
One day you're going to have to because everyone wants to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things they also show that this is underrated and it's not hit over the head, and as somebody who has to go to treatment for my PTSD and stuff, it also talks about very, very quietly the importance of having a friend. Jessie Quick needs somebody to help her sort this out who's not her. You need a support system. And Wonder Woman, just all the whole time, she's like, I just told you all this bullshit and you just told me I can handle it. You're smiling. Bitch. But really, oh man, you were right. I needed this from you in the end. I needed you to be positive and keep supporting me and letting me know I'm doing good things. And then I have trouble. At one point they're chatting and she's, oh yeah, mothers are tricky. Because she has her own weird relationship with her mom. I think like a year and a half before this, her mom, in the thing we're going to read, they have a contest for a new Wonder Woman. And her mom rigs it so Diana loses because she had a vision that Wonder Woman was going to die. Well, spoiler alert, Wonder Woman does. But guess what? It's not Diana. It's the person who.
It's the replacement.
So now Diana's like, you screwed me over here. It either should have been me or I wouldn't have died. You saw, so you made that happen.
Right.
And so they have other issues too. But again, when Diana disappears for a while, I don't remember if she's dead in quotes or just, I don't know, cosmically sleeping or something. I can't remember, but her mom becomes Wonder Woman for her, which is a very interesting aspect of their relationship.
Right, right.
It's like when your mom puts on your prom dress and is like, oh, look, it fits me.
Can't say that I've had that happen.
I haven't either. It's just, I watch a lot of sitcoms. So.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
Jessie has a very, very well-made prom dress, and it's not
right behind the Punisher emblem.
Right.
Actually, it is the Punisher emblem. It looks like a tapestry.
That would be perfect.
By just smart mermaid cut gun.
Oh my
You're actually
goodness.
going to spin really fast the 70s Wonder Woman to change into a second.
Yes.
But all in all, this is a solid book. It's certainly worth the $1 to $5 you're going to pay for it now if you find it in a bin. It's a nice pickup. Again, I think Mike Collins does a great job penciling, and Tom Palmer was great on inks. They create this good atmosphere. And I also enjoyed the little callback to when Wonder Woman worked at Taco Wiz.
Right.
Where, it's a little she's the employee of the month. Jesse Quick is like, what the fuck is going on here?
Well, that was me. I'm reading it too, and I'm like, why the fuck is she working at the Taco Wiz? So what was that about?
I don't remember why she worked at Taco Wiz, to be honest.
So they didn't have to pay the creator's family. We went over this earlier.
Right. So that Joss Whedon could copy it later on Buffy.
Okay.
That's why. I don't remember exactly why, but I do remember that at a time when Wizard Magazine wasn't giving Wonder Woman a lot of love, they were like, this is actually pretty interesting. And I'd like to go back and I'd like to go read it one day, because I don't think I have, but I remember knowing what was going on at one point, but I haven't ever read it. But I remember the cover of her serving up the slop.
Yeah. Wow.
I want to read that issue because I want to see it from the perspective of another employee who's trying to compete with Wonder Woman for Employee of the Month.
Can you imagine somebody who's Employee of the Month 9 straight months? And then it's like Wonder Woman is seething.
That's a great story.
Do you think anybody was ever going through this Taco Wiz and it would be like one of those days when rich celebrities cosplay poor people? They're like, Ben Affleck was at the Dunkin' Donuts today for charity. Do you think anybody was like, oh, Wonder Woman's here, so what do you represent? He's like, no, this is my job. Like, what do you mean, aren't you Wonder Woman? It's
Wait a second.
Like, I'll be here tomorrow. Well, then so will I.
Yep, I'll be back. All right. Well, yeah. Hey, my final thoughts on this book. For something that I was not expecting at all to hit as hard as it did. It did a great job. I think this is my personal opinion is that this is a gem. This is something that if I see it, I will actually pick it up. But normally I'm a little frugal at the comic store. I don't really throw down the bucks.
Right.
But if I see this thing, I'm going to pick it up because it spoke a lot to me. It really did. There was a lot in here.
The two C's for you were Cyberforce and cash. Right?
3.
And you don't get one out unless it involves the other.
You forgot about cheap. All right.
All right.
You forgot about that one.
CNC Starcher Factory. Got it.
The CNC Starcher. That's perfect. But yeah, man. I think this was a great pick. I don't know if we would have found a story like this in any of those other plus issues for sure.
I have no idea. We'll have to look at a few of them. But yeah, this was really good for a random pick. Just had some extra time and thought it would be something that we'd have fun doing. What do you think, Emily?
I agree. For something that, picked by that criteria, absolutely. Definitely a gem of a little book.
I also feel you wouldn't know this necessarily from the cover, although I think you probably should if you're a fan of the Flash in this era, but it's just sort of a must-read if you're a Flash fan, because there's some character stuff on the Flash you're not going to see there, and it ties up some loose ends from Flash stuff that, again, it doesn't really mention it on the cover. So another thing to keep in mind that if you're a Flash person, this is a book you should probably get.
That's a good point. All right, well, let's go ahead. We'll get into plugs. Dean Compton, tell them about the Unspoken Decade.
Well, we're celebrating 10 years of the Unspoken Decade this year.
Jesus, really?
Yeah.
A decade of the Unspoken Decade.
Yeah, call us Double D because it's Ed and Eddie over here, right? So yeah, we're doing that, and we got a lot of great stuff. We're up over 10,000 members at the Facebook, 16,000 followers. We got a lot going on over there. The website continues to plug along. We're going to try and get some of the old band together to write some articles this year to celebrate 10 years. That's and great. We're having a good time. We're always having a good time. Trying to keep the vibe very positive.
A decade of the unspoken decade. Boy, we're going to have to remember that. That's why we pay Emily the big bucks.
Right. Give her a big smooch as soon as we get off of here.
Yeah, so
what a thrill for her.
Yes. She just left. There was a puff of smoke. I don't know what happened. So yeah, you can check out. You're listening to this show right here. We are actually. You know what? Before I get into that, Emily, do you have anything you want to plug?
Oh, goodness gracious. I do intend to write something for this here old website soon, but just keep an eye on it. It's been a while, guys.
Yeah, I hear you.
Some great stuff in the past to check out, though.
That's right. Go ahead, check out that archive because there's a lot of stuff in there. They're all right there. I think on the right hand side, you can go down and take a look at any month and any year, if I remember correctly. Is that where it's at?
Yes. That is correct. And you should check out Emily's Mr. Hero article. It's the best article on the internet about Mr. Hero.
Very good. Well, for myself, most likely you guys are listening to the Unspoken Issues podcast on the Source Material Comics feed. We go through the w2mnet.com guys. They hook us up with the bandwidth, give us a spot to call our own here, and we appreciate you listening. In the past, you can hear myself and Dean Compton and Derry talk claws and webs, baby. That's right. Wolverine, Venom, Nightmare, the ethereal astral plane.
Weird ass looking Professor X.
Weird ass. Yes, for sure. We cover the Marvel Comics Presents issue. Well, we cover the story that fell in Marvel Comics Presents there drawn by one Sam Keith. So it's one of the few times I get to gush about one of my favorite
be a
artists.
Max movie?
No.
Yeah, Channing Tatum's apparently going to make a Max movie. His dream project.
Come on.
Look it up. I mean, I read articles about it the other day. Why would I make this up?
Come on.
This is one of his hobbies. He just spreads lots of lies about Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum was supposed to be Gambit, wasn't he, at one point?
That's one of the reasons why he's going forward with this, is that fell through.
Yeah, that's
what he said in the article I read. So
that's crazy.
Max. Yeah, look that up. Just look up just Google Channing Tatum the Max and
what kind of whacked out stuff would that be live action?
I don't know, but he said he's very inspired by the cartoon. That's where he started the Max. So if you watch the cartoon and you read the comics, you get it. It'll be interesting to see.
For sure.
Content warning.
I mean, his head is big enough.
Whoa!
That was rude.
Shots fired.
I was trying to think.
They hit the big teeth. They hit the big Max teeth.
Oh man, oh man. Prior to Claws and Webs, you could hear me and Evan Bevins. We are talking Booster Gold 52 pickup, and we had a blast talking about that. A lot of fun. I love me some time travel. As a matter of fact, I think we're going to continue the Booster Gold discussion, and we're going to go into Volume 2 at some point, because Volume 1 was great. And from what Evan said, Volume 2 is right up my alley, so I am down to talk about it. All right, we're going to go ahead and get on out of here. For Dean Compton, for Emily Scott, I'm Jesse Starcher. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. Unspoken Issues is part of the UnspokenDecade.com, the home for 90s comics, blogs, and podcasts. Unspoken Issues also has a Facebook group you can join if you are interested. Just search the Unspoken Issues podcast and request to join. All of this would not be possible without w2mnet.com, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.